Aloha biology distance learners. Welcome to week 5 of quarter 3. We are almost there. This is our last week of quarter 3. So let me just go ahead and say that this Friday, April 23rd, 2 p.m., this is the last day and time you can turn anything in for quarter 3 that you want to be graded and included in your quarter 3 grade. So 2 p.m. is the deadline. So if you have any work that is still missing, this is the week to get caught up. You'll see that this week is kind of full of BWET stuff. So you'll have a lot of downtime this week for biology to get anything finished that you haven't finished yet and then turned in by 2 p.m. at the latest on Friday. Okay. We have a weekend after this, and then the following Monday, we're jumping straight into quarter 4. Okay, so again, 2 p.m. this Friday, April 23rd, is the last day for any quarter 3 work that you want graded. All right, so let's jump into what we're doing this week. It's kind of a different week. We are doing all BWET stuff. So I'll go ahead and say if you didn't take the IAB on Friday, then your last 2 opportunities to do that are this morning, 8 a.m., Monday morning, 8 a.m., or at 12 p.m. You've received a Schoology message if that is still something that you need to have happen. So, and then also I sent out a message to you guys as well saying, hey, I know it's last minute, but if you're watching this somehow before 9 a.m. on Monday and you want to hop into our presentation, come join us live for class, I sent you a link to the Google Meet so you can hop in and do that. I'm going to be recording it anyway, so it'll be nice if you can hop in and kind of hear about this Kula ecosystem, because this week we're kind of focusing on that. If you can't make it on Monday, that's okay. I'm kind of just setting the stage for our classroom guest tomorrow on Tuesday. Kahanu Gardens, some people from Kahanu Gardens are coming to our class, and they're going to be talking to us about the work that they do, and working within this ecosystem. Kula is like our dryland plains, right? So what kind of work do they do and why is it important? And then on Thursday we're going to visit them and do a huaka'i down there on Thursday. And I know, distance learners, I didn't really give you guys a whole lot of notice for that, and I'm sorry. I kind of just solidified that date last week. So if you want to come on this field trip on Thursday, all you have to do is respond to me and I will get you an SA1 form. You just have to have it signed and turned into me by Wednesday. So if you do want to come, we'd love to have you. You'll hop on the bus. You need to be at school no later than 8:45 to hop on the bus right after Pico, and then we'll be back by 1. So we're just going to do, a service learning field trip down there, kind of get a tour, and then do some stewardship, Malama Aina work. And then the kuleana for Wednesday and Friday is revolving around this stewardship project. So I'm going to exit out of this real quick and show you what I am talking about over here. So you have access to, or you will have access to by the time I publish it in the morning. Yes, I am recording this very late Sunday night. So you will have access to this stewardship project updates and project journal. And let me just go over those real quick. So if you remember back to the beginning of this semester, and a couple times we've talked about this, we have this OPIO Stewardship Action Project that goes along with the BWET, the grant, the Bay and Watershed Education and Training grant that we got for this class. So because COVID has kind of thrown a huge wrench in our plans for that grant, we've, had to make a lot of changes to our program. And that's okay. They're totally accommodating of us, and, we'll just hopefully have a better opportunity Next year, if some of you guys take the natural resources elective, then we'll be, exploring this further. Anyways, what I want to tell you is that I kind of made some updates to this project because we haven't really talked about it since, our first unit when we were studying ecology and you guys were doing your invasive species, PBL. So I want to bring this back up because it is going to be our final project and I want you to start thinking about it now. So you can go and click on this stewardship project updates and this is what it is right here. So the format is the same. You still need this leading question. So basically, this should look familiar to you. Here's our 3 different areas that you can choose a project. It says to choose at least one to focus your project on. How can I reduce the impact of an invasive species? How can I conserve and protect a specific natural resource? Or how can I perpetuate traditional natural resource management all within my local ahupua'a? So you need to pick at least one of these. And, picking one of these is probably going to overlap into talking about natural resources or, traditional Hawaiian, management of systems. So these things are probably going to overlap. So that's why I say pick at least one, because if you pick invasive species, you're probably going to be talking a little bit about each one of these. All right, so you still need to do this. This is still the fundamental. So you need to choose which area you actually want to focus on. The second part of it is seeking knowledge, so doing this research part. Now, I'm expanding a lot more on what this means and what I'm looking for in what I'm calling this stewardship project journal. Assignment and Schoology. Now, I will talk about that in just a second. Stewardship project journal, and then there's a part 2. I'm going to talk about that in just a second, but let's just get through the rest of this. The third part is actually doing some sort of stewardship project because, again, this is the name of the projects. OPO, which is youth, like young adult, stewardship action project. So the purpose of this is for you guys to start thinking about being a steward of the land and the space that you live in and Hana and the community. So getting you out there and getting you involved. So that's why choosing one of these questions and then doing a project on it, kind of like a PBL, kind of like what you guys have done before in high school. It's just getting you thinking about how can I take care of the place that I live and what is a place, like how can I be of service to my community, right? So this third component is doing the actual work, Malama Aina. Before it was, you had to work with a community partner. That hasn't really panned out just because of COVID. So here is our new update. This is the big update here. So because of COVID, there have been a lot of delays and very little time for this project within and outside of school. You still need to conduct a project, but the expectations are a lot more flexible. Here's your options. So instead of having to go and do 6 hours with a community partner or whatever it is, here are your options. The first option, you can conduct your project at home or nearby in your ahupua'a. Make sure you have permission if you're going on someone else's land. We'll expand more on this, but this is the first thing. If you're a go-getter and you have an idea and you just want to either do it at home or at a neighbor's or kind of, on your family land or whatever it may be, you can go for it, right? We'll explore that more in this next part. Or if you can't really think of anything and you don't really feel like you have the resources, you can use one of our next 2 huaka'i field trips as your project. So this Thursday, like I said, on April 22nd, we're going to Kahanu Gardens. So if you're a distant learner, and you don't want to do a project at home, then you probably need to come to one of these field trips. So when we go to Kahanu Gardens this Thursday, we're going to be doing some sort of service learning project that's related to planting and indigenous crop preservation. So we don't know exactly what we're going to be doing, but this whole concept, planting and indigenous crop preservation, ties into our traditional resource management or specific natural resources, right? And then our next one, our next and final one of the school year is going to be this Tuesday, May 18th to Kipuhulu. And then this one is a little bit more specific. It's a service learning project related to OPH monitoring. We will likely do a real deal, legit OPH count survey with the Nature Conservancy. That is the plan right now, and we're still in the works of getting that all together. So hopefully, cross all of our fingers and toes, we can do that and actually collect some data on OPH within the OPH rest areas. And then you can use that within, one of these questions here, right? But if you really want to go for invasive species, you want to like trap mongoose or, hunt pigs or whatever it is, then this conducting your project at home might be more of your, up your alley. So here it says either way, you'll need to go through the steps outlined in the project. Let me just go ahead and change this. Because I changed the name of the thing. Stewardship Project Journal. See other packet. That's for in class students. But then what you guys are going to see is this here, the Stewardship Project Journal. And then last component here, the Hoike. We were meant to have all of our community partners and invite people from the community to come in and you guys all share about your project. But since it's kind of short notice and COVID is still very real and alive, on Maui, and we have partners from all over the island, we're going to be doing a virtual Hoike event. So this is kind of cool because it gives you more freedom with how you can share your project. So you don't have to do the traditional like make a presentation, get really nervous, have, note cards and dress up formal and come up to the class and try your best. Like, sure that's, a good experience, but here we have a little bit more flexibility and more options for you. So here's what I would recommend. Here's the three main typical ones that I would recommend. You could still do a Google Slides presentation, but you can pre-record your audio over it. And then that way, when we get to the sharing event, I think it's going to be 1 or 2 days, we can just pull your video up of you going over your slides and your voice is pre-recorded. So you don't have to get nervous about talking about it or anything. Or you can make a video where you compile photos and videos from your project. This only works if you have really good footage. So that's something to keep in mind with one of these projects. You need to be taking videos, you need to be taking photos and then being able to stitch them together and make a product that we can show all of, aunties and uncles and all the community partners that have come in and talked to us. And then this, other option is actually give a live presentation. So, I'll set up my computer, and if you do want to stand up at the board with your slides and then be recorded or be, on a video conference, then that's another option. So I don't want to stress you guys out too much about this whole Hoike thing, but just keep in mind that it is, happening in about a month and a half or so. So we do have a couple of tentative dates, and it is happening. It is part of your final project for this class, but don't stress about it now. Just keep these things in mind about, taking really good video footage, and yeah. Okay. So let me move on to what is expected of you now on Wednesday and Friday. So you can see here it says BWET Kula Stewardship Project Part 1, leading question due, and then start on Part 2, and then our Huakai is on Thursday, and then Friday is work on Part 2 research. So let me, I'm going to open up this project. So when you come and click on Stewardship Project Journal, it's going to look like this. It's going to make a document for you. Essentially, the things that we just went over in that other update document is exactly what's in this document, except I spaced it out. Okay, so this first one, ask a leading question. So what's due on Wednesday for you? And I'm going to go ahead and open this because I tell you within this assignment. What's due on Wednesday, right here, part 1 due on Wednesday, 4/21. It's 10 points. And then part 2, let's just go back. Part 1 is due on Wednesday. So part 1 is this one right here, this ask a leading question. So here again is your 3 leading questions, and then I want you to choose one of these that you want to work on, okay? So here you go. Answer these 2 questions. Which leading question are you choosing, and why did you choose this? And then explain how you're personalizing this leading question project focus. Briefly describe your project elements. For example, if you're going to pick how can I reduce the invasive species within my local ahupua'a, if you're going to choose that leading question, then you're going to put that here, and you're going to tell me why you chose this over the other ones, because you really want to reduce the impact of invasive species, whatever it is. And then here, personalize your project. This is where you tell me, hey, like, I want to trap mongoose because they keep, eating my chicken eggs or something like that. Like, or I want to, go and hunt feral pigs or trap fire ants or whatever it is. Like, tell me why it is that you're choosing this and then how you're going to personalize it. So what in specific, or if it's a specific natural resource, like I want to, work on food crops and protect, providing food for my family. So I'm going to work on growing sweet potatoes or whatever it is. Okay. So this is part 1 that's due on Wednesday. If you scroll down, you can see that the next part is part 2, and I give you a lot more information. This whole seek knowledge part, this is all number 2, and I tell you before you even try to type into this page, fill in the notes page at the end of this document, okay? There's different components. I want you to read over all of this. Basically, it's just telling you, keep track of your information. There's a referencing section at the end when you do your research. Research needs to include the following and follow this outline. So first you need to define the problem. And then I kind of tell you here what I mean by that. This section can start broad, but needs to really zoom into your home of Hana Maui. What is it your leading question project focus trying to address? What are the impacts? What's at stake of being lost? Why should others care? And so on. So these are just some questions to get you thinking, right? But when you're answering this and you're defining the problem, I don't want you typing in right here. So again, it says fill in the notes page at the end of this document. It says this a couple times. So if you scroll down to the end, you'll see these notes page. And what I did is I broke it up. So this is still number 2, right? Part 2. But here we have just this first part, define the problem, right? Same exact text copied here, but you're going to take your research notes here. Okay, you're going to type in here, you're going to, put what you find online, what, your kind of answer to these questions, you're brainstorming here. Okay. This next part related to, this should be B, related to biology. Incorporate biological concepts into your problem. Most of your projects will likely focus on our first unit, ecology. Okay, so here's where you would kind of relate back to what we've learned in biology. This next part, interview a kapuna, right? So here's your notes pages where you're going to be filling these in. So when we go and we see here, part 1 on Wednesday is due, the leading question, you're going to go to your document here. Where'd it go? You're going to go to your stewardship project journal, and like it says in there, you're going to work on part 1. So that is just going to be these questions right here. You're going to answer these, and then you're going to submit the document, and then I'm going to come and, excuse me, I'm going to come and give you some feedback over here, and then I'll send it back to you. Then this next part here, Huka is on Thursday, the next part on Friday, work on part 2. You don't have to get all of part 2 done, and it even tells you this here. Part 2, work on, start on it on Wednesday, and then work on it on Friday. And then I'll submit it by this day, and I'll give you some feedback, okay? Does not have to be fully completed by this date. Just get some research done to define your problem, come up with a few ideas of who you can interview. So this part here, right? So interview a kapuna is part of it. So interview at least one person who might have the knowledge of the problem that your project addresses. This might be an expert, blah, blah, blah. Read through this, right? But I'm not saying you need to get your interview done by Friday. You just need to come up with some ideas. So when you submit on Friday, I want you to have some of the defining the problem done. So make some notes. take some notes here. And then anytime you ever use the internet for research, you need to go and make sure that you're retaining and logging where you get that from. So the very, very bottom page is references. Okay, so you're going to put the links, you're going to put the names of the articles you're reading or the whatever it is, right? You're going to record all that here, and then we'll work on citations. Because, we're going to be presenting this to professionals. There's going to be some professionals, some of the people that have come into our classroom so far. And if they ask you a question, you need to be able to say, oh, this is the website that I got that information from. Okay. So you need to work on not interviewing, but coming up with some ideas of who you might interview and what you might talk to them about, right? And then work on this defining the problem. So that's what I mean by saying work on part 2 research. Okay, so it even tells you when you click on this, part 2, do Wednesday, right? And then the actual assignment, which you're gonna get credit for, I have to put this in here. This isn't where you're going to submit it, but it just gives you more information. Work on part 2, right? It says due Friday, April 23rd. And then it says work on part 2. You click on this, it's taking you to this link. So it's saying, hey, go work on it in this document. Work on part 2A, defining the problem. Get some research notes jotted down, keeping track of your sources of information. Come up with some ideas about who you want to interview. Okay, so I hope that that's straightforward. I did my best to organize it the best that I could. So you'll see that all this week we're doing BWET. If you have any questions, ask them as soon as possible, because remember, stuff is due by 2 p.m. on Friday. So if you aren't starting this until Friday, or you're not watching this video until Friday, then you're not going to have time to ask questions and get feedback from me, okay? Because remember, I do teach from 8 a.m. until 2 p.m. I have classes, I have students. So I'm not super available during those normal school hours. So I see your guys' messages early in the morning and then after 2 p.m. Okay. So you need to check in as soon as you can, ask questions. If you're watching this on Monday or Tuesday and you have questions or concerns, please reach out as soon as possible. That's a huge component to making distance learning successful. Okay, I think I've talked for long enough. Catch up if you need to this week, and then, really start thinking about what you want to do for your stewardship project. We only have a couple more weeks of, after this, when we start quarter 4, of real biology content, and then you guys have your state exam, and then we'll have the last couple weeks of school to, kind of play around with this project idea. So more info coming after that, after this week. So stay tuned. Ask questions now if you've got them. And yeah, take care. Talk to you guys soon. Have a good day, productive day, and a great week. Aloha.